everybody, and we are live. This is so exciting. We're going to do something which we have never ever done before. Hi from Connecticut, says Susan. We've got people coming from all over the world. We are going to be going open mic, so that's a really exciting thing that we're trying to do today. So you know how it works, everybody. Join the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us what's going on in your world. And we want to know exactly what's going on, what we can talk about, what are the things that are important to you. So we've got a great show today for you, which is, just lovely news. But also you've got CPE credits. So if you want CPE credits, then please do make a note of these wonderful CPE credits you can get. You can get them from ERC. We've got the ERC credits there for GMS and for CRP. We've got the HRCI credits. We've got the SHRM credits. So all the credits that you want are going to be there for you, which is just great news. And many thanks to all our friends at Rocket Mortgage who've helped with the HRCI and the SHRM credits, and to ERC who've helped with the GMS and the CRP credits. We've got some great shows lined up for you. Next week, we've got a show on Core Flex. It's called Core Flex, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How cool is that? So that's a really interesting show. And then the week after, I tell you, we've got what is going to be a world first, I think, in global mobility. Our guest in 2 weeks' time, please make sure you put this in your calendar, is going to be a robot. Okay, you've heard all about ChatGPT. Well, we are going to be interviewing ChatGPT. We'll have a live robot on stage, and we're going to be having a real conversation. So it's going to be just incredible. Anyway, we always like to share a little bit of breaking news with you about what's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility over the last 7 days. So let's have a look at this week's breaking news in global mobility. Latest breaking news, but in fact there's something else that I want to share with you. We've got a competition today. How exciting is this? I'm delighted to bring on stage the great friend of mine. We used to work together, Alex Felstead from Global Mobility Executive. So Alex, it's great to have you here with us. Now you're running a big event, and as I understand it, you're going to be giving away an amazing prize. So tell us all about it.
That's right, Brian, and thank you for having me on again. So yeah, absolutely. Same after the success of the prize giveaway we gave last year for the GME Live EMEA event in London. We're doing the same, but this time for our GME Live Americas event. It's a full-day conference. We've got keynote speakers, panel sessions, fireside chats, breakouts, and some fantastic thought leaders from some of the world's biggest companies joining us. And yes, you're right, we're giving it away a expenses paid trip to join us at the event. So the criteria is, one, you need to be a corporate in-house global mobility or HR professional. You need to be available on the 24th, 25th and 26th of April to travel to Jersey City for the event. And that is really it. We'll take care of the rest. So we'll cover your flights. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, we'll cover your flights and 2 nights accommodation as well. So I'm going to be picking a winner out of not a hat this year, but my daughter's.
I was going to say you use a hat. So
yeah,
what you got there?
This year it's my daughter's Fisher Price bucket. There are other brands of buckets available, but yes. So I'll be picking a winner out live on air at the end of the show. So to be in the chance of winning, you just need to, in the comment section put hashtag GME Live Americas, and we'll put your name into the bucket. There is one other proviso. You do need to be online at the end of the show to be able to claim the prize.
Okay, so what we need you to do is, if you want to get your free ticket to, not free ticket, your free trip to GME Live Americas, just put in the LinkedIn comments, hashtag GME Live Americas, and then stay on the show until the end. And at the end of it, we'll bring Alex back and we'll do the draw. And somebody is going to be going home with a free trip, accommodation plus flights to GME Live in Americas. So, and I hope for you, Alex, the winner is someone that lives on the East Coast, not someone in Sydney.
Well, we thought about that, yeah. Who knows? It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter wherever they are.
Exactly, and we're going to be drawing out the hat. Okay, anyway, Alex, it's great to have you on the show. You can stay backstage watching all those GME Live hashtags coming up now, which is great. Meanwhile, we're going to go on to talk about immigration, and we're going to be bringing on Julia Onslow-Cole. So let's hear it. That's a big hit the heart, hit the like, hit the applause. Let's say thank you to Alex and GME Executive for their generosity, and a big welcome to Julia Onslow-Cole.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Julia. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Fine.
Good. Well, whereabouts are you this week?
I'm in France. Yeah, I'm in France. I'm actually on holiday, but never mind.
Oh, you're breaking your holiday for us. That's just so kind of you. So what are you going to be talking about today?
So today I'm just going to be talking about Asia Pacific, and particularly China. And last week, you'll remember I talked about Singapore, about the points-based system that's coming in October, and also about the degree verification. And next week, I'm going to talk about Vietnam, because there's a lot of companies that have got operations there. A lot moved to Vietnam because of the difficulty in Hong Kong with the zero COVID policy, and the difficulty of actually moving people to Singapore because it was quite tight on the immigration rules. So lots of companies are in Vietnam, and it's a very interesting country and a lot going on. So that's what I'm going to talk about next week. But today I'm just going to concentrate on China. And I just wanted to say thank you, Becky Shear, and to Mark Buchanan. So the thing about China is that Xi Jinping began his third term as China's president, and he got another 5 years. And that was last week. And as everyone knows, there's great tensions at the moment between the US and China. And also China's really struggling to get its growth back after the zero COVID policy really interrupted their growth agenda. Now, on the good news, what we're seeing is that if you're going to go to China to work, there are very little sort of pandemic extra requirements that are left. But if you're trying to go as a visitor, then there are quite a few complications still. On the COVID testing, and you'll remember that that was very, very laborious, and you had to have one COVID test literally just before you went. As long as you have one test in the 48 hours before you travel to China, and your health declaration is fine, and there's nothing to suspect that you're poorly when you arrive, then you don't have to quarantine. So that's a really big thing, because everyone will remember that the quarantine rules were really, really strict. But I just wanted to say a few lessons for people who have workers who are going to China as visitors particularly. And that is, you must plan very early, because there's lots of delays at the Chinese consulates, and each consulate has a different processing time. And also the process varies very much depending which city in China you're going to. So you really have to factor those things in. And if you have someone that you want to land on an urgent business visit, then there are alternatives. So, for example, you can have a transit visa free arrangement or a visa on arrival. So there are options. So you must look at the consulates, look at the processing time, look at the city that you're going to, and also it's really important that you look at any other options. And what we are seeing, which is really good news, is this movement in China to the conditions that were pre the pandemic. And I just wanted to highlight 3 things that people should be aware of. The first is that a number of big cities, and this includes Shanghai and Beijing, are trialing out this new policy for skilled foreign talent. It's a 2-year program, and basically it expands the eligibility criteria for work authorization. So this is really good news. So if you're actually sending someone to one of these cities that's participating in this program, then there is extra leniency on work authorization. The second thing is, if you're sending anyone to Beijing, Beijing has radically introduced a new streamlined process for work authorization. And what they're doing is they're using the facilities of the expert bureau. So this also is good news. So if it's Beijing you're sending people to, you need to know about this. And the last thing I wanted to say is the Talent R endorsement. Now, this is a special new endorsement that you can get for your workers who are in the Greater Bay Area. So that these are mainland residents in the Greater Bay Area who are traveling a lot to Hong Kong, Macau, and they can get this Talent R endorsement, and it's a multiple entry visa for 5 years. So that also is something to look out for. So as I say, Brian, next week I'm going to talk about Vietnam, and then after that I will move away from Asia Pacific.
Brilliant. Julia, as ever, absolutely splendid immigration insights that you give. So we're now going to move on to talk about tax. So everybody, you know how it works. I've told you once, I've said it 1,000 times. Please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole. And let's bring onto the stage Julie Barron from Vialto Partners. Hey, hello. Julie, are you in?
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Is it snowing out on the East Coast? I hear there's storms out there.
North of me today here in DC, it is really windy. We're in the middle of a windstorm, so it's a cold, windy day. But yeah.
And talking of cold, I think we're going to Canada, aren't we? And we've got somebody backstage. Shall I?
Yeah.
So tell me who we've got, and I'll bring him on stage.
That's right. I have my partner, Joey Pava, from out in Calgary. So much colder, much further north from me. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the Canadian real estate taxes that are coming into play. And there's some urgent deadlines.
Okay, let's bring Joey onto stage. Hey, Joey, how are you doing?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Julie. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's cold, but it's wonderfully sunny up in Calgary, just to make that clear. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so tell us about what's going on with this real estate tax in Canada.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Our Canadian deadline's about 7 weeks away, and people are working really hard on their tax returns. And I think a lot of people are getting surprised around a significant new excess tax that was recently implemented in Canada. And so, a bit of an overview. Back in January, the federal government of Canada implemented some legislation called the Prohibition on the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act, and that's a bit of a mouthful. And it's really this action is really an accumulation of a number of different pieces of legislation that have kind of been implemented over the last 5 years in Canada. It's really to target foreign nationals and corporations owning real estate in Canada. Okay, so certain groups are going to say that this new ban unfairly targets foreign buyers and could harm the economy. Other people are outlining that's a necessary measure to combat kind of rising house prices in Canada. So why does this matter in the global mobility space? Why is this an impact to foreign buyers? And there's really two important parts. The first important part is foreign buyers are not going to be able to purchase real estate in Canada for a period of 2 years, right? So if you're a global mobility personnel, this might impede your ability to attract and retain talent if they can't purchase property in Canada, okay? Two, and this is really why I'm on today to kind of discuss this, is a certain piece of that legislation is called the Underused Housing Tax Act. And this requires certain non-Canadian owners and some Canadian owners of residential property in Canada to file an annual tax return to report their ownership of their property in Canada. And unless certain exemptions apply, pay 1% tax on the value of your home, right? So that can be a very intimidating statement, a 1% penalty on the value of your home. So thankfully, there are a number of exclusions if you are a Canadian citizen, or if you are a Canadian permanent residency card holder for immigration purposes, you are considered an excluded owner. You don't have to do any further actions, okay? However, if you are a non-Canadian citizen or a non-PR card holder and you own Canadian real property, you are considered an effective owner. And as an effective owner, you now have this annual filing obligation, okay? And you'll have to pay a 1% tax unless you can find an available exemption. And there are a number of available exemptions out there. So if you have a newly constructed property in 2022, that's an exemption. If you're living in the space as your primary residence, it's not underused, that's an exemption. If you're renting out the property at fair market value, that's an exemption. So there's a lot of exemptions that are out there. People need to go and educate themselves on the rules. But the important point is, even if you do have an exemption, you need to file this separate excess tax return.
Okay, so
file. Go ahead, Brian.
So I was going to say, and the summary point here is that everybody should be aware that there is a real big tax minefield with property in Canada. And if you're moving people to Canada, then you really need to make sure that that advice is being taken from your tax advisor, Vialto Partners, whoever your tax partner, your tax advisor is. But there's a real minefield that people need to be aware of there. So that's a huge issue. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. That's, as I said, a huge issue. We're going to move on now. We want to move on to talk about our Top 100 Diversity Initiative. That's the next area that we're going. And to talk about that, I'm going to be bringing onto our stage our producer, Tally. And then after that, we're going open mic, and we'll give you the link for open mic as well. So we've got a lot of fun things today. We've got a jam-packed show. Julie, as ever, thank you for your for Vialto's support and the tax updates. And Joey, great having you on the show. Really appreciate that. Hugely important tax update on Canada. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say thank you to Julie and Joey, and welcome to the stage, Tally. But Tally,
hello, Brian.
here we had a slight problem with it not going out properly to LinkedIn earlier.
Okay, yes. So as if it wasn't stressful enough that you're gonna bring guests to my studio. As if it wasn't stressful enough, we added another feature that StreamYard threw at us, and apparently it's not working really well. And so, unfortunately, we can't see your comments unless you're sending them through the LinkedIn link. So here, Bindu, thank you for following the link that I've sent, and I will send it again because I see that it is working, and we can see comments that are coming from YouTube. Sorry, from YouTube. So I'm going to send a link to YouTube, and you can send your comments from there. However, in order to join us in the studio, you don't need the comments. You can actually, soon you're going to be getting the link to the studio, and you'll be able to just join us here. So how about I tell a little bit of the news, and then we'll instruct our audience of how they join us in the studio?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Cool. So first thing, as Brian mentioned, yes, we are looking for your nominations for the top 100 diversity champions. So anyone who has to do with diversity, equality, and inclusion in your organization, please nominate them. They should be corporate. I'm going to send the link in the comments, and do nominate them. And as I mentioned last week, this week, I want to mention it again, that this time, although we're not, the nomination is only for corporate members. However, our suppliers or vendors, they're now invited to not only nominate people, but also make them their nomination known. So you have a chance. You don't have to. You can still nominate anonymously, but you can also mention that you nominated people to the diversity champions. And our champions for this week, we got great nominations from Tyler and Scott from Going There, and Michael from Auto Relocation Plus. Thank you for your nomination. And we got many nominations from Alexandra, Hakun, Christine, Ton, and Erland from Vialto Partners in Norway. So these are the organizations that nominated a big chunk of nominees. So you can nominate up to 10, and these nominated 5 and more. So that's great. And continue.
So if you're out there and you haven't nominated already, this is, I think Sherry put a comment up there in the comments I saw on LinkedIn saying that this is the best. Please do nominate people. We really want to celebrate diversity, and anybody can nominate. You're doing it on a personal basis. Nominate anybody you want, and we'll make sure that the top 100 nominations are go public when we produce that list in May. But the nominations are open now, so please do make the nominations.
Yes. One more thing that I wanted to mention is to our change makers in the audience. Next week, as Brian mentioned, we're going to have the Coreflex show. And right after that, Dawn and Russ are going to do a benchmarking call for all change makers. That's going to be the day after. So if by any chance you're a change maker and you didn't receive an invitation to this change maker only call, let me know. And we're going to meet there, and it's going to be exciting. We're getting some really good ideas in these calls. So that's it, Brian. What do they have to do in order to get into our studio?
Okay, well, we're going to go open mic now. I'm going to bring in our 3 experts. I'm going to bring in Julie Barron, Julie Onslow-Cole, and Russ Hayne. So we've got a tax, immigration, and a policy advisor all there. But the special guest is going to be you. So as the conversation goes, if you want to join in, then all you have to do is follow the link. And I'll put the link up here now so you'll know what it is. If I find that link, here we go, put that link up here. But also we're going to be putting that link on LinkedIn. Tally's going to be put it on LinkedIn. So just click on that link if you want to join the conversation, and we'll be bringing you on stage too. But to get the conversation started, let's bring on our special guest. So everybody hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's thank Tally and let's welcome to the stage Julie, Julia and Russ. And we already have our first guest backstage who wants to come on live. Does anybody else want to come on live? You just follow that link, which we're putting on LinkedIn if you want to come on live. But let me just start off the conversation. We've got Julie, we've got Julia, and we've got Russ. So let's just open up the conversation. And I just want to start talking about the world post-pandemic. I mean, we had the pandemic. We're now through that. What are the changes going to be? How is that impacting mobility? So, Russ, do you want to kick off on that? Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring our first guest on stage. Why don't you go straight for it? Because we've got others coming in. Here's Bindu. Bindu, welcome to the stage.
Hi, Bindu.
Why don't you kick off and tell us what you think is going to be the impact of the long-term impact of post-COVID on the world that we're in? Hi, Russ, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hi, Bindu. Thank you so much for joining us on the virtual stage. It's so nice to be here with all of you. I would say from my perspective, one thing I'm going to be talking a lot about, and I think it's going to be a legacy of the pandemic, especially among younger generations who've lived through all of the turbulence. I've been seeing surveys recently that were focused on new university grads, both the class of 2022 and the incoming class of 2023. A resounding result from those surveys is that that young cohort of talent are looking for stability in their employer relationship. And that's second only to salary. So no surprises there. They definitely still like to make money, but they are looking for a stable relationship. And I think that is going to have a resounding impact on how we talk about the value proposition that we bring to the business, how mobility supports stabilizing that relationship, just far-reaching impacts. And that is different than we've seen in any other previous generation. And if you think about it, these younger workers have lived through a university experience that was so disrupted, and they've also seen the recent layoffs in the tech sector. So they're acutely focused on how do I find an employer that is going to guarantee that I have stability in my work life. And so I just can't speak enough about how much I think that's going to impact everything that we do.
Okay, let's move on. We've got some guests. Actually, we've got another guest popping in here as well. We've got Sherry as well. So we've got Sherry. So let's just start with you, Bindu. Bindu, what's your perspective on this? Where do you think we're going to be going now in terms of trends as the world comes back post-pandemic? And tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you today? Introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, good evening. And I was on mute when you were welcoming me. So I'm so sorry that I couldn't reciprocate immediately. It took me some time. And it's well past my bedtime. So I'm still looking presentable just to be on the show, Brian. Thank you so much. And wonderful seeing all of you. Julie, we've been seeing you every week. And it's a great show. So I can say this again and again. I've made so many connections and friends today. So thank you very much. Today I am in Chennai. It's called the Detroit of India because we have more than 7 or 8 brands of manufacturing plants it started with Ford, though they wound up, but we have everybody coming here now, the BMWs and the Daimlers and the Hyundais and everybody. So yeah, I'm here right now. But like I said, I'm pretty much in many cities in India today because I go where work takes me. And the trends I don't know if you were asking me about, the trends in India or in general what we were discussing right now. So
you take it where you want to go. If you want to talk globally or in India, that's completely up to you.
Yeah, I was supposed to ask a question either to Julia or Julie, but since I don't know much about tax, Julie, I'm going to skip you. I'll just go to Julia straight away because I had a question about what is happening since you said trends in India. There's a lot of discussion about the same-sex marriages here and how there is a tussle between the court and the government. And the government does not want to legalize marriages, whereas the court is trying to see how there's a huge argument going on. And I was trying to figure out what that would mean if it does not get legalized at the end of it. I don't know. I mean, I would like it to be legalized for my friends and people I know in the gay community. But I'm saying, what would it mean if they were to take a job, let's say, for instance, in Dubai or the US? I know the US is fine with it, but would that mean that they have to go to the US and get married there? Or how does it work when it comes to visas? If there's one software professional, for instance, that's a question that was going on in my mind, because I know that in my daughter's generation, they're all finishing university and getting into work mode now, and a couple of them have come out, and India is going through a huge transformation in every way. And one of them is actually a lot of inclusivity, acceptance from parents of my generation. And I'm seeing some friends who are talking about their children and how they would have to go abroad on work.
Let's get into that. And I'm conscious of the fact that we've got a few people backstage. I can see Tara Hayne backstage and Jenny Buxey backstage as well. So I'm going to try and keep this quite short so everybody can have a say. But Julia, maybe you can take that. And also Sherry, I know you've actually been on the show before. I know this is a subject that you're very passionate about. So I'd be interested in your take too. So Julia, why don't you start and then go on to Sherry?
It's a really good question, Bindu. I mean, it was very interesting. Only yesterday you saw that same-sex marriage is being recognized in Japan, for the first time. So I think the thing is, it depends very much country by country. So you can't really say it depends whether a country will only accept it from an immigration perspective if it's marriage or if it's, partners. But I did want to just say something about the global trend, because I think a really, really important trend, which is like the biggest global mobility trend, is the fact that we are living in a state of permanent crisis. This word permacrisis that was, the top of the English dictionary, and that CEOs who have actually been only CEOs for the last 10 to 15 years have not really experienced this before. But when you think of the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the tensions between China and Taiwan, the supply chain issues, and all of these are really impacting CEOs. And why this is important for global mobility is that CEOs are now being coached to only control or to focus on controlling the things that they can control, which are things like talent management. And that's why global mobility is really up there in the boardroom. And I actually think it will stay up there because that's what CEOs can control. And I think that is a really, really massive trend, and that impacts the whole profession more than anything else.
Okay, and let's bring on.
I can add something very, very quickly, Brian, just on this. And I totally agree with Julia, and the talent management also means that should India decide not to do this, obviously it's their national right. I'm obviously against, but the thing is that maybe Indian nationals would decide to go somewhere else where their LGBT rights are recognized, and also companies may decide that because India is not as inclusive, they don't want to invest that much there because they cannot send a part of their population. So it's actually also not only a rights commentary, but also a talent management and economic decision at this point.
Yeah, well said.
So let's bring. I want to bring Tara on stage because I can see her backstage there. So we've got Tara Hayne. Bindu, we're going to say goodbye in a moment, Bindu. So we're going to move you backstage. So Tara, tell us whereabouts in the world are you, and tell us a bit about what you do.
Yes, I'm in sunny San Francisco Bay Area. I know this is on the map this week for not great reasons, since the banking
Absolutely.
Crisis is down the street here.
Well, actually, let me ask you a question about that. I mean, we've all been hearing about that around the rest of the world, but you're there. How big is this going to be, or is it something that is going to blow over and it's not an issue? I've been reading stuff about Credit Suisse being having its shares tanking today. But do you think we're at the start of a bad time, or do you think this was a one-off?
Well, it's not a one-off yet, right? Because there's another bank in New York, so there's both coasts have now, I guess, been affected, and I think beyond the U.S. coasts as well. I'm hearing different things. I've heard, every conversation I've had this week has touched on it. I will say that, regardless of whether it was on topic or not. And every tech, I'm in the tech region, and I talk to a lot of tech folks, and the mobility folks who weren't sure, who were private company, whether they were connected or not, and what was the trickle down to their company, and did they have investments there? So I think there's definitely some fear. And of course, we had new U.S. law come out this week. The government has responded to the banking and is shoring it up, is trying to make sure that we are secure. It's a hard question to answer.
Okay. And in fact, we've got a guest coming in all over the place. I can see Jenny Buxey coming in here. So let's bring Jenny onto stage. So Jenny, whereabouts in the world are you?
Hi, good evening, good morning all. I'm in Perth, Australia. So
oh my God, late. What time is it?
It's 25 to 1. But I've been on work calls this evening, so I haven't been on the Benivo calls for a while. So I thought I'd come in and say hello. And yeah, great topic.
Well, I'm
just it was live.
So flattered that we're reaching Perth, Australia. And people in Australia are willing to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch the show. You don't know, my heart is just bumping and racing. And all that. Jenny, do you have a question for the panel, or is there a comment you'd like to make?
It's a really random question actually, around sort of employment contracts where we're sending people to new locations and for expat assignments and things like that. We're reviewing all of our contracts and looking at new countries. I've been on a call with Brazil, that's why I'm still online now. And is there a simplified mechanism? Because we've been speaking to lawyers and tax people and immigration people. Is there a one-stop shop that can help us do all of that, so that we're not having to reach out and trying to pull it all in as a corporate? There's only a team of 2 at South 32. So it would be great if there was that one-stop shop that could do everything for us for employment law to.
So commenting that, I mean, Sherry, Julie, you're both with Vialto Partners. So what's your view on that? By the way, Jenny, I'm seeing people in the comments on LinkedIn saying that you should win the prize for the free trip to Jersey.
I would love that. Yeah.
As commitment. So anyway, it's going to be drawn out of a hat. It's going to be live, so we can't sway this one. But you've certainly got, I think I saw Beth Nielsen and Vinny Valverde both saying that, and Simon Davis saying the same. So anyway, so let's just take Jenny's comments. Julie, do you want to kick off on that one?
Sure, yeah. So it depends on what you're looking for. Jenny, some of the things, obviously at Vialto Partners, we can do a lot of things to help you. We don't actually move people, so that's one thing we don't do, but we do obviously tax and immigration work, and some employment law depending on the country. So we can do a lot of it, but we don't actually do the moving piece. So I don't know that there is a one-stop shop. I think after our separation from PwC, we're excited about the possibilities of what we can start doing, and some of the things we'll be able to do that in the past we were unable to do. So we're, every day building on those capabilities, but I don't know that we'll get to one-stop shop.
Okay, I want to move. I'm just going to ask, Bindu's backstage. I'll just bring Bindu on again for your comments. And then after that, I need to ask people when they move backstage to actually leave the studio, because with StreamYard, we can only have a certain number of people backstage, and we can't bring other people on whilst people are on stage. But Bindu, I mean, what's your perspective? Do you think there's a need for a one-stop shop? No, you're on mute, I'm afraid, Bindu.
Yeah. I'm not an expert on this topic, so I do not know whether I'm, knowledgeable enough to comment on this, whether a one-stop shop is good, but definitely it varies from country to country and the need of the hour in each industry as well. So
I thought Jenny's question wasn't about whether there should be one provider doing all the bits. I thought Jenny's question was, can you get a template contract? Was that it, Jenny? That you could get?
It was,
that's what you were asking, weren't you?
It was what? Yeah, correct, Julia. Because
is there a one contract that you could get, a simplified contract, which you wouldn't then have to, get dedicated, immigration, whatever advice? And the thing is, instinctively, I think experts would say all the answers no, because actually instinctively it's all very complicated and it depends on the country. But actually, Jenny, I think you're really onto something, because I do think that there is a lot that you can actually simplify, and you could move together into one template, because otherwise for your company it will be incredibly costly and time expensive, because you're going to have to sort of replicate everything. So I think actually, there is a core that you could have that would actually work for all countries. And then what you've got to work out is, where you would move from.
I think a lot is going to happen actually with GPT. And I mean, which has now, as of today, it was Chat GPT, it's now GPT-4. They've just issued the new version. But I'll tell you a story. I was talking to somebody literally last night, and he was in New York visiting a friend, and the friend was a cardiologist and had to prepare a paper, and senior cardiologist. And the cardiologist said she had to prepare this paper, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll do it." And he knows nothing about, he's in mobility, he knows nothing about cardiology. And within 30 seconds, he'd prepared a paper using GPT, which blew her away. But then they took some of her results from that day's medicine, the surgery that she'd been doing, or this consultation she'd been doing. They inputted the results with no personal information in there, but they inputted the results, and it came up with recommendations. And the cardiologist said that in several cases, those recommendations, they would only have got to the same conclusion if they'd put together a multidisciplinary team. And actually, it did it. It was just mind-blowing. As I said, 2 weeks' time, we've got ChatGPT on as our special guest. We've got an avatar. We've given her a name. It's Benita, the avatar, the robot, and she will be on the show in 2 weeks' time. Trust me, you've got to watch that show. It'll blow you away. Anyway, I'm going to move a couple of people backstage, and if I can ask you to leave the studio, because we've got others that want to come in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bindu. I'll leave Tara here for a moment, and I'm going to say goodbye to Jenny for the moment. And we've got Nicola now coming in. And I said we'll say goodbye to Jenny. Jenny, actually, before I say goodbye, I just want to say thank you so much for coming in from Perth. It's just amazing that you've been here. I just have to clear the studio so other people can join too. So Tara, so you've been hanging on politely, and tell us about you. I mean, you work with a boutique, don't you?
Yeah, right. I'm with Global Tax Network. I came out of the Internal Revenue Service and various Big Four, but a tax girl, pretty much through and through. And it's a boutique firm. I think that kind of tried to maybe do what Rialto's done a while ago, break away and try to be independent.
Okay, so Tara, it's great having you on the show. Let's move on to Nicola. I mean, where are you today, Nicola? Question or comment? Where are you?
I am in Germany, waiting for the spring. It's still rainy and cold here. Working from home. Just got done with work.
Okay, and do you have a question for the audience, or for our panel that we've here, or a comment you would like to make?
So there are two things that I've posted. One thing, I think it would be a comment from my side. I think that in terms of technology, it will be worthwhile, in my opinion, to look at crypto and metaverse. And I think there is a tremendous amount of possibilities there. And what I would actually like to look at after the inflation now and all these layoffs that we've heard about, combining that with Gen Z culture and the generation and the generations coming afterwards, it will be interesting to see how all these big companies that have laid off thousands of people will be winning the war for talent afterwards. And most of these companies have been winning people from all over the world, from India to the US, from the US to Japan and everywhere else. So I think that culture plays a major role for the younger generations, and that feeling that they belong and that they have a purpose. So I'll be looking into how they will be able to reconcile what they've done after the inflation.
Yeah. Okay. And comments on that? Would anybody like to pick up on that and comment on that?
Well, it's interesting because Russ talked earlier about how it's important, stability is important for this new generation, right? And so these recent college grads who really wanted to work in tech, and that was kind of the goal, right? They all thought that was super exciting and to work in tech, and now that's not a stable environment. So if we go back to Russ's comment on stability, they're not getting the stability there that they thought they would get. So that will be interesting to see if people don't want to work for tech now, or what the effect of that is. So we'll see.
Well, I also think it's quite important to look at the long-term trends, because there's a Gates Foundation report showing that by the end of the century, they think that there's going to be a drop in population of 2 billion. And they said that would translate in Germany that you'd lose a third. Yes, a third.
This is only 8 billion.
Yeah, it would be back to 6. It would be 6.
Wow.
And they said that this would be Germany. Your population would be your working population would be declining by a third. Italy, Spain, Greece by 50%. Poland, Portugal, Romania, Japan, and China by 2/3. 2/3 of your working population. And they said that the only way, and then obviously there'd be a huge drop in productivity. And the only way you're going to sort of battle this through is by better use of technology and immigration.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, if anybody in
that's where AI enters,
anybody out there in LinkedIn world wants to come on stage, we've got a couple of slots where we can take a couple more people to join us on stage. And I saw Ellen Shipley out there, and I know she's worked in the banking section. We were talking about that before. I've seen Vinny Valverde out there making comments. I've seen Henri de Saussure. We've seen people from all over the world. Many, loads of you. I don't know why I'm picking on those guys, but come on board, join in the fun. There's a question I want to take on from that, actually, because you were talking about population growth. But here's a question: have we passed peak expat? Are the volumes that we had, say, pre-pandemic, the highest volumes ever? Are we going to be going down, or do we think that the volumes are, where do we think volumes are going to be? I can see Simon Davis has joined. I'll bring him on stage too. So Simon from ITX. Hi, Simon. Good to see you. Hopefully he can hear us. So where do we think we're going to go with volumes? Have we passed peak expat? Who wants to kick off on that one? I think Julie, do you want to give that one a go?
Sure. I do think that we're getting back to pre-COVID levels, but I do think that the lens of mobility is changing, in that the traditional expats are not as popular, and we're seeing more of the remote work and the commuters and the business travelers and different types. I'll tell you, and maybe Tara has a comment on this too, but as far as the number of tax returns that we're doing this tax season as opposed to last tax season, so that's 2022 versus 2021, we're up a fairly big percentage.
But are you up, Julie, are you up because you're winning business, or are your clients moving more people?
Our clients are definitely moving more people. Now, that may be because they weren't moving people for a couple of years, and now it's back up again. But we're definitely up. I'd say the average client is up maybe 15 to 20%. Depends on the industry, but we are seeing an increase. And look, Tara is nodding her head and agreeing with me. So we're getting back to pre-pandemic levels.
Okay, I've got somebody else backstage I'm just going to bring on. But yeah, somebody else was going to come in on that. Was that you, Sherry?
Yeah, I think to piggyback on what Julie said, it's a different profile, right? And I think the I think it's easier and easier to immigrate. I think the interest is increasing. It's easier from an immigration perspective. It's easier from a travel perspective. I mean, barring the pandemic limitations that happen, but I think it will continue to get easier. The world continues to get smaller. And the interest is there. I think that it will keep growing in a different way than it was in the past.
I would say that from my perspective, there is a main difference between what we saw before COVID and now, which is that the volumes may be higher and even the work that we have to do in terms of immigration and taxes may be higher in the numbers, but the type of moves that we do would be very, very has significantly changed already. Like, for example, people are remote working and they may not want to do an assignment for 2 years, but maybe they have to do a lot of short-term business travel to meet the team and get a bit of more than connection, whilst at the same time they keep working at home, which means that maybe they have to do like different smaller tax returns or get tax exemptions or get short-term work permits instead of one long-term permit. So there's a lot of work and even more compliance risks for clients, but it's just like volumes will be different in terms of let's just send people for 3 years and then see what else.
Okay, that's a great point. I'm going to move a couple of people backstage. We've got more people there. And when you go backstage, please can you leave the studio? And that way we free up seats for other people to come in. So we're going to say goodbye to Tara now. Thank you very much for being on the show. And we're going to say goodbye to Sherry. So again, Sherry, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been on the show before. And we're going to have a few more people coming in the moment. But Simon, let's just hear from you. I mean, is there a point you want to make, or have you got a question, or would you want to comment on where the conversation is going at the moment?
Yeah, I think probably more of a question, Brian. First of all, love this format. Great initiative, and involving everybody to have come in and join the community. So hi to everybody. I think for me it's twofold. I think more and more corporates are looking at exploring alternative operating models. In terms of finding new efficiencies and financial efficiency as well as compliance. And yet I'm still seeing sort of a bit of reluctance in the space that I'm in the GEC space, and I wonder what the panel's thoughts are around that.
Okay, so what are our views on global employment companies? Do you want to take that one, Russ?
Yeah, and Simon, it's great to see you here. Thanks for joining us virtually. Sure. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for companies to leverage those capabilities as they are having to out of necessity, really, because if we think about what Julia shared in terms of the longer term trends, in terms of the labor market shortages and the expectations that talent have today coming out of the pandemic for having remote work opportunities, having global learning opportunities and development opportunities. I think companies are now pressed to find ways to accommodate case-by-case situations where they are having to enter markets where they don't have infrastructure. And so they need efficient ways to enter those markets without raising the risk for the corporation to do business in a particular country. And I think the emergence of the GEC option is tremendously valuable. So I do see companies taking that seriously and beginning to take a look at it. And I know, Simon, that's your space, and I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Russ. I mean, it's often confused. I was chatting to Brian recently, and it's often confused with the EOR approach, and I think that's something that we together as a community need to overcome. There are some fantastic benefits if it's the right fit, but there needs to be, we're doing our best to try and make that more aware, create better awareness around the global mobility community for the practitioners. Yeah.
And we're definitely going to get you back on the show to talk about that separately. I'm just going to move Nicola backstage. Nicola, thank you so much for being on the show. As a matter of interest, we actually did do a little survey. We asked the question, how will 2023 volumes compare to 2022 levels? And we gave you these choices. By the way, just to say, we're going to be doing the draw in a moment for that free trip to Jersey.
I'll stay on there.
for the GME Live. Sadly, it's corporate only, Simon.
I know.
But so we'll bring Alex on in a moment to do that draw. If you haven't actually done the hashtag, then do the hashtag. Remember, it's hashtag GME Live Americas to do that. But so we asked the question, how will 2023 volumes compare to 2022 levels? And we said significantly lower, margin higher, or significantly higher. So I'll tell you what the audience said, but let me just ask you guys, what do you think? I mean, if we look at the whole world, you know, not just your particular company, because obviously all your companies are booming, but the whole world, how do we think 2023 volumes are going to compare to last year?
Julia. I think it's significantly higher. That's what I'm seeing. I agree completely with what Julie said about the types of you know, moves that are different, and maybe a lot of business visit travel, but I think it's significantly higher from where I'm sitting.
Okay, and Russ, what's your take on that?
I'm going to be a bit more pessimistic and say marginally higher, just because we're, you know, approaching the end of the first quarter, and I do believe that we came in with great momentum, but there are so many headwinds at play, and I'm optimistic that the banking crisis that we're seeing is going to be contained, and we're not going to face broad implications of that. But I'm a bit of a it depends kind of guy when it comes to these predictions. So I'm gonna ratchet it down just a bit from Julie's optimism and say marginally higher.
Okay, I'll tell you what the audience said when we did the poll. 12% said significantly lower, margin lower 35%, margin higher 43%, and significantly higher 10%. So it was optimistic. It was more people were saying that there'd be more people moving than less. I mean, personally, I think I'm actually a bit, dare I say, a bit less optimistic. You know, I think there is a crisis out there, and I think we've seen, you know, a lot of stuff going on in Silicon Valley with big layoffs. You know, companies like, well, I won't mention all the names, but I think everybody knows them as well as I do. I mean, other sectors I think are booming. I mean, obviously, pharma, defense, oil and gas are booming. It depends what sector. But on balance, I think we'll be lucky if we get to 2022 levels.
I think, Brian, it's perhaps about...
I'm sorry, I'm going to pull this to an end now because we're getting towards the end of our show, and I need to bring Alex on for the big draw. So let me bring Alex onto screen. I'm going to say goodbye to... Actually, let's get rid of some of these headings up here. I'm going to say goodbye, Simon. Thank you for being on the show. I said we'll get you back on the show again to talk about global employment companies at a later date in the year. But I'm going to say goodbye to Simon now.
Thanks.
And okay, so Alex, do you want to do the draw? We've got about a minute and a half left.
Yes.
Now let's make sure we all understand this. Okay, is you've got to be in the audience. Okay, so you're going to draw a name out the hat, and then we're going to be watching LinkedIn, and we want to see you say yay or words to that effect if your name is there. And if you don't answer, then you know we're going to move on to the next person being drawn out the hat. Okay, Alex.
Right. Let's go for it. We've got the bucket. So thank you for everyone who entered. We had quite a few entries, so we'll go straight in. Who have we got?
And the winner is
Liesl Rudlin from Nokia.
Liesl or Liesl. Nokia, are you there? You've got to write in the comments. If you don't write in the comments, we're not seeing a comment from Liesl. Has anybody seen it? I'm not. I can't see anything there from LinkedIn. Nope, I saw Richard coming in there. Anybody else coming in? Liesl from Nokia, are you there? We'll give you another 30 seconds. Oh no. No. We might have to go for number 2.
Okay, I'm going to pick again.
Get ready for the number 2. The clock is going down. Don't say the name yet. Get ready, get it pulled out and ready. No, I don't think I'm so... Oh, hang on. Nitsan saying here she is. Can we see it? We've got to see a comment from Liesl. She has responded there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, she is there. Hey! It didn't come up on our LinkedIn for some reason, but it has been seen. Okay, so many congratulations to to Liesl from Nokia. She has got, I'm guessing, is she based in Finland? I guess I'm not sure. But anyway, Liesl, many congratulations. And Alex from GME will be in touch with you to give you your free airplane tickets. And I'm guessing it's steerage class. I'm not sure we're going as first class on that. We didn't go into the small print there.
No.
And hotel accommodation. So many congratulations to Liesl. Anyway, that's the end of the show. It's been an amazing show. We had one or two fun and games with StreamYard not working properly with LinkedIn, but we got there in the end. Many thanks to Julie Barron from Vialto, to Joey Pavia from Vialto, to Julie Onslow-Cole from Fragment, to Russ Hayne from Benivo, to Alex from GME Executive, to Tally, the producer, and of course to you, the audience, and especially those of you who came on stage. It's been a blast. We will definitely do this format again. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week.
Thanks, Brian.